I just wanted to say hello and thank you so much for being here today. Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about who you are and how long you have been here at Harvest.
My name is Lindsay. We as in my husband, Corey, and I, who've been married for almost 23 years now. I have a 22-year-old son, Caden, 19-year-old son, Caleb, and 16-year-old daughter, Hannah. We have been at Harvest for like 20 and a half years.
Okay.
Long time.
Long time.
Yeah, definitely, lived a lot of our lives together with this tribe. Mm-hmm.
So, because it's Mother's Day, today we're going to spend a little bit of time just talking about your journey as a mom to your 3 beautiful children. That being said, I know from everything other people tell me that being a mom is not always a smooth sailing journey. Walk us through a little bit about the challenges that you've faced in being a mom for the last 20 plus years and sort of what's gotten you through some of the harder moments of being a mom.
Well, I mean, parenting definitely, I think, comes with some of your greatest joys and victories, but also I think some of the most hardest things you'll ever go through are, can be related around your children. As you go through the highs and lows of life, you can go through the whole gamut of emotions, feelings, victories, triumphs, and also heartbreak. But I think the thing that has carried Corey and I through is most definitely, our relationship with the Lord, and having always that as being the center and founding point for everything that we do from there. Definitely our community has been a lifeline, and that's putting it mildly. I feel like, it
really does take a village.
Yeah, I can't express the gratitude I have for especially this group of people that we've been able to, lean on through all of it. Yeah.
So Harvest specifically is a super prophetic-y type church. We're maybe a little more charismatic than your average church, which is such a blessing and can be a little terrifying for some people. But tell me a little bit about what that aspect of this church has done for your family.
Yeah, well, I think for me, when I think of being a mother, I think holding on to those prophetic promises and to the promises for my kids has been, just key and very much something I've held on to. And I think for me that was twofold. It wasn't it was on one hand holding on to the Bible, the promises that the Bible has for us as, Christians and for my children. So holding on to those promises, but also growing up in a prophetic church, it opened my kids and myself up to the opportunity of them being prophesied over, from a very young age. I remember in specific, Hannah, when she was only a few weeks old, as a church, we were doing citywide worship at St. Michael's Anglican Church, and Margaret was leading worship, and someone from the worship team came over to me and Hannah, and she was literally just newborn, and prophesied over Hannah that she was going to be leading worship and she was going to be a worshiper. And so I think back to when Hannah was just a baby and hearing that, and then that also forming some of the stuff that I've prayed for her, although I don't think she really had any option being the family that she's in. But it definitely gave me something to pray into and something to pray for. And then, you look at this beautiful 16-year-old girl who, you start to see some of these things unfold for her, and on her own, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but it was something that she wanted, something that she cultivated, something that she's just a worshiper, So holding on to those prophetic words and until, I think of the verse that says, once you've done all, just to stand, And I think oftentimes as parents, we can be standing in the middle, right? Where on one side there's like the prophetic promise, there's the promises that the Bible has given us, and it says like God's words don't come back void. But then there's also the reality sometimes of what we see, and it doesn't always line up. And as parents, we're in the middle, and we have to pray, stand in between until, yeah. So when I think of my kids, you know, there's prophetic things that, you know, have been spoken over them through their lives that have held me in the good and bad, you know. And there's things that we're seeing come about now, you know, when I think of Caden and just his journey up into this point. And, you know, we've seen him choose this amazing lady that he's going to marry in a few months, and she's just a gem. And there's those very things that Corey and I have prayed for, you know, their whole lives, and promises and things that we've had to stand on through the good, the bad, and the ugly. And when you see, you know, your children turning into adults and beginning to build their own lives, and you see them making godly choices and surrounding themselves with godly people and choosing to walk out their relationship with Jesus, you know, it's amazing to watch. Sometimes I have to pinch myself a little bit, but it's been it's just a joy to watch it, you know. So that is like obviously on the other end of many years of having to believe, and at sometimes, and Caden would say the same, you know, it wasn't always
a straight journey,
yes.
a direct path towards the life that they have now.
Exactly. You know, there was times where what we believed and stood on wasn't always what we saw, you know, so that's been neat. And then there's also things that we're still standing in the gap for, we're still believing and praying for, we're still, you know, I'm gonna keep standing until. So
yeah, I love what you said about those prophetic words directing your prayers for your kids. I think that prayer is so powerful, and I've seen so many and heard so many great testimonies of just the different ways that people can pray for their kids. Like one of my closest friends and one of my first friends to get married in my friend group, her in-laws came up to give this speech, and they kind of turned and directed their like welcome to the family speech to my good friend's parents, and they said, it's so nice to finally meet the people who have been our prayer partners all these years, because this whole time we've been praying for your daughter as who our son will eventually marry, and we know that you've been praying for our son who they'd eventually marry. And so I love that. I think there's so many creative ways with which you can pray for your kids, whether that's praying for a potential future partner, whether that's praying into prophetic words if you're blessed with gifts like that so early on. Is there anything else that I didn't ask you about that you would say kind of about this parenting journey, mom journey that you've been on? Yeah, it's a gift, definitely. I feel like parenting is a gift. It's a joy. Even in the good, the bad, and the ugly, there's so much positive in it. Keep standing strong, keep holding on to, you know, the promises. I think of one in specific, Proverbs 22 verse 6. It says, dedicate your children to God and point them in the way that they should go, and the values they've learned from you will be with them for life. There you go. If that's not something that we can hold on to as parents, as we, you know, do our best to try to direct our children, teach our children, even if it's like to apologize all the time, because we've taught our kids to be very good apologizers, because we've had to do that a lot. But yeah, training them in the way they should go, and they will not depart from it. And I know that there's lots of us as parents who are standing, you know, in the middle, who haven't quite seen it happen yet. Some that have seen it happen, but are continuing to stand, whatever it would be, you know, standing until.